I'm Bill Oughton of Oughton Claims Management.
I'm Chantal Roberts of CMR Consulting, and welcome to the Art of Adjusting podcast.
Today, we're going to talk about life as an insurance adjuster from the perspective of property, auto, liability, or workers' compensation adjusters. Our goal is to bring interesting topics in the world of claims adjusting to people who are working as an adjuster now and to people who are considering a career as a claims adjuster. Hey, Chantal, how are you today?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I've learned from TikTok that I need to smile more. So,
Oh, you know what?
what?
You are so much prettier when you smile.
Oh, cut it out now.
Oh,
Go on, you.
was that a little femsplaining for
I
you?
guess maybe I'm going to
Oh,
turn red now.
yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
so how's the weather out by you?
it is hot. I
Is it
mean,
really?
yes. Like yesterday and muggy too. It's like this is summer 4 or 5, whatever. It is 91
Ooh, we
today.
had a little bit of that a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago anyway. But the leaves are starting to fall here. I know you and I had a discussion about leaves, and I
Yes.
think there was some confusion about them happening. Don't they all just come out down at once and then you clean them up and they're gone? No, they're starting now and they're going to keep doing this until November. So,
Oh, that sucks,
uh,
rocks. But you know what? That reminds me. I'm very excited. Our one of our last podcast, I believe, for this year will be someone that you've brought in, a guest that you have brought in, to talk about trees. And that
oh,
is so
yes.
important. That is, I mean, that is something important because we get those questions all the time. What happens if the branch goes over the property line or,
Yep.
whatever? What is a live tree? What is a dead tree?
Yep.
So, uh,
So, yeah, that will be an interesting one for sure. So, today we're going to talk about all the things we love about this job. Now, I don't want people to think that we are just totally smitten with this job, that we can't see that this job has some bad days, because it does.
right.
There's a lot of stress involved in this line of work, but every job has stress. Show me a job that doesn't have stress.
Exactly.
But I think it takes a special person to love this job. And there are a lot of special people out there. So we're two of them.
Yes. I used to, and I know we've talked about a lot of these things before, but I used to tell people, candidates who I was interviewing, I'm like, look, this is really hard. This is a hard job. There's a lot of hours, but I absolutely love it because and one of the reasons why I love it is the fact that I get to help people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good reasons. I've got 15 of them here.
Oh, goody. Let's go through them. Why do you
Um
love adjusting? And remember to smile. And if
so
you're on YouTube, you can see Bill smile. It's
yeah,
great.
I have different kinds of smiles too. I've got a nice sarcastic smile.
Mm,
I've got my genuine smile. I got my I'm laughing my, till I
mm.
cry smile. Anyway, I love the variety of daily tasks. Just your daily routine. Every day my feet hit the floor, I'm doing something different. I might be in the office. These days I'm trying to pack more office work in just because the ebb and flow of the way the work goes, you wind up having to play catch up sometimes. So, this entire week, and I don't have a staff here, so
Right.
in my office, so I can come and work casual day. So it's been jeans and flannel shirts all week, and I just bolt through the work and get that done. And that is actually, I like that every once in a while, being able to just hole up and do my office work and feel like I'm really productive that way. Other days I hit the road and I'm traveling for, driving for 8 hours, and I go to get to see new places. We live in a beautiful part of the state, so just driving around itself is an adventure here. It can be an adventure in the winter too.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But then you get to see crazy things when you're out. So every day is different, and that variety makes makes it fun to go to work.
I would say the same thing as a desk adjuster. I have been a desk adjuster, an independent adjuster like you. but I was still mostly a desk adjuster. I didn't write estimates or anything like that. But I've also been a fraud investigator, SIU, and so I would go out into scenes and take photographs and interview people and that sort of thing. But even as a desk adjuster, if you're thinking about becoming an adjuster, a desk adjuster still does things differently. You may be sitting at a desk all day long, but one day you may be handling a fire. The next day it's a wind loss. If we're just talking property, if you're a multi-line adjuster, I handled bodily injury to semi-tractor trailer rigs to inland marine cargo. So it could be anything that comes across my desk, and that's what I would be handling. And I tend to find or think about it as a mystery. So I'm always trying to figure out, how this all fits. And so that is what a desk adjuster job looks like on a daily basis. And you're right, it differs every day, even if all you did was property. The policies are different, the people are different, the circumstances are different, so everything changes.
And there's a wild swing of variability, I would say too. If you're handling, let's say oh, an auto PD desk, and you're handling claims that are maybe between zero and $15,000. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the increments would be, but you're basically just pulling estimates in, reviewing them, and that can be pretty mundane, but still within that kind of a job, you're still going to see a pretty wild swing of differences through the day. Now you compare that to a multi-line independent adjuster who could be getting a total loss fire one day. It could be getting a small PD liability claim the next day. It could be getting an injury claim one day. Um, at that end of the spectrum, those folks see a lot of different things in a given day.
I would say that being an adjuster is really nice in the fact that it is a job that challenges your brain.
Oh yeah, yep. Especially mine when it's so small.
Yes. Yes.
Another thing I love is meeting new people. And of course, I meet new policyholders and new claimants almost daily.
Mhm.
But I also meet new colleagues and peers, clients, and people in the business, people like you, people that are doing the same thing that I do, and we can tell battle stories.
Yes. Yeah.
Whenever I get on the phone with an adjuster, um, we wind up talking about war stories. It's just inevitable.
Right.
Um, and not everybody you meet out in the world, claimants or policyholders, are fun. Sometimes they're absolutely the opposite of fun. They're stressful, angry. They don't like you. They don't like insurance companies.
Mhm.
But navigating that is part of the adventure. When you have to meet somebody for the first time and they already have an opinion in their mind that claims adjusters are evil, let's say,
Right.
because believe it or not, some people think that.
Yes.
I don't know where that comes from,
I think it
but
comes from that popular mythology. Have you been hit by a big rig?
yeah, well,
You know?
all the commercials on TV certainly don't do us any favors.
No, they don't.
Those TV attorneys are always out there telling how bad the insurance companies are.
Hmm.
So you come across that a lot where people just assume that you're out to screw them over. And learning how to navigate that is a life skill that will help you in other areas of your life. I guarantee it. Um, so that's what's fun about this job as well. I think you said problem solving, or the intellectual part of it.
Yeah, the
Um,
stimulation. Yeah, I think that's great. Because I would not like a job where I just did the same thing over and over again.
yeah.
Uh, that would,
Problem solving is another one of my items here on the list. And you can be really creative in the way that you solve problems in this job.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that you're breaking rules. It just means that you're recognizing what somebody really needs to get a claim settled. Maybe it's not just extra zeros on the check. Maybe there's some way you can take care of something first and then talk about the rest of the claim later.
Right.
Um, Look for opportunities to find out what the other side really needs to get the claim done. Also look for opportunities to educate them so that they fully understand the process. Because what I found is, especially on a complicated piece of a claim like, oh, Medicare, but even more so a business interruption claim, those can be really confusing for the person at the other end, a small business owner. They might not even understand their own P&L, let alone what you're going to do with it, you know?
Hmm. Look,
So,
I had to get a new accountant
mhm.
this past tag 2023, and I could just hear her go like, "Oh my God," and she goes, you, uh, and I'm like, I know, I just like, no, I can't, so I'm just gonna give you everything." And yeah, but what you're talking about is so important, like educating and the claimants, either first party and or third party, because um, when you call them for the first time, explain the process and explain the fact that it is not going to take 3 days or 5 days or whatever. Uh, I had read an article, and I've probably mentioned this before, where now people are beginning to believe that they can be reimbursed via wire transfer. And my concern is that a lot of people will continue to think that. And if we as adjusters don't talk about that, then that's what makes them angry and that's what makes them yell at us. And so we
Mhm.
need to educate them, saying like, okay, we can't do a wire transfer because we've got to put the mortgagee on the check or the title holder on the check, or whatever. Um, so it is a nice thing to be able to, like I said, hold someone's hand and educate them and be their partner, I guess, is kind of the way to look at it.
Yeah, and there are opportunities to educate in some ways, not just policyholders or claimants, but also attorneys. You know,
Mm,
there are times where I came across an attorney the other day that specializes in one area of claims, and he wandered over into another area that we kind of specialize in, and he was not aware of how, certain things worked with Medicare,
mhm.
and he was treating it as if it were a auto no fault situation where you really can't do it that way on the Medicare side
Yeah,
on a general liability claim. But the initial discovery of that was through email, and they were short, quippy emails that we were shooting back and forth. I wanted medical authorizations. He wanted bills paid, and the emails were short and terse, and I didn't like the tone of them, either mine or his.
right.
And it sounded like we were on the brink of having an argument.
Mm,
So I picked up the phone.
that's what you do. I was just getting ready to say that. Good for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
picked up
this
the
is a
phone.
learning moment, guys. If you're new and you're listening, this is a learning moment. Bill's about to teach you something, so pay attention, guys.
I
And he
had
does it with a
I
smile on his face.
he was perfectly happy to talk to me about it. He explained what his reasoning was. I explained what my kind of take on it was, and and you could hear the light bulb go off in his brain, and a little light bulb went off in mine too, because then I realized, oh, that is why he was saying what he was saying. It's because there was just a little bit of a gap of understanding. So it's very easy to wander through a path like that and go the wrong way. And then all of a sudden you've got and instead of resolving it,
Right.
they just go ahead and file a lawsuit and figure it out that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So to the TLDR for that is, if you start shooting emails back and forth every 30 seconds and you're still not getting your point across, pick up the phone,
yeah.
because obviously you have missed a point. And I'm going to say you have missed a point that they think they have made. And of course, they've missed your point. I'm not going to lie, they've missed your point,
Hmm.
but you're speaking across one another. So pick up the phone and go, okay, so help me understand what you're saying. What, why do you think this way? And let them talk, and a little light bulb will go off, and then that's a way to educate. And this is one of the reasons why I love this kind of work, because I get to learn how other people think. It's one of the reasons why I like teaching as well.
Hmm.
I am so intrigued by the way these I would say kids, but they're not kids, these young adults, the way they think, what they believe in, what they hold dear. I think it's very interesting.
Well, the reality of the work that we do here too is that it's very, I mean, it's sophisticated work. It's not things that can be accomplished with single sentences by email. There and you know, to have some of the conversations that we do verbally,
Mm.
to have those written down and sent by email, so all of the issues were explained, there'd be volumes and volumes and volumes of emails. And
Absolutely.
sometimes it's easier just to have a conversation so that you can each side can get the full story from one another, and right decisions can be made from that.
Absolutely.
So that's what problem solving opportunities. That's a real important part of the job, and that's one of the things I like. The next one I have here is the thrill of investigation.
Oh, yeah.
The thrill. It is thrilling. And the reason it's thrilling is because sometimes people lie. And when that happens, you wind up going down a road that you might not need to. And you have to find out, if you've got a thing that happened and you've got two different stories about how it happened, somebody's lying. You have to figure out who. And that can be really interesting. And a lot of times you'll assume, well, if they said that and they said that, then that one has to be lying because of this one little piece of evidence. But then you don't have the whole story, maybe.
Mm,
Maybe you only got half of the story from this guy, and he can fill in some gaps that explain it further. You would not believe how one tiny little nuanced thing can change the whole trajectory of an investigation. And
yes.
I've been on cases where everybody was sure it was one thing,
Hmm.
to the extent that it went to trial. And
Mm,
then the depositions happened. And then they found out, oh, we didn't know that part.
mm.
And all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're no longer defending this case. Now we're just talking about damages. So yeah, that's an interesting piece of it.
I love doing that. As an expert witness, every once in a while, I will get a case. And those are kind of like my favorite ones, where there is just one line in the entire claim file. And it is so easy for the claims adjuster, who is overworked and underpaid. And so we're sitting there going, yeah, this is a great job. Come on. And you're overworked and underpaid. Okay, I do not want this job. But no, seriously, it's a lot of fun. It's great. Please sign up so we're not all overworked. It's just half of us will be. Um, these two cases, of course, happened to be, I was the policyholder expert witness. And in one of the cases, the hospital notes, I was skimming through them. I wasn't really reading them, too closely, because that wasn't necessarily where I needed to be focusing, but I was skimming through them, and I saw that the hospital, the ER doctor, had called the pastor for the injured, because they didn't think the insured was going to be making it through the night.
Mm,
And that, I mean, all it said was, call the the pastor, you know, um, and you're like, oh, that's bad. And so that really increased. So now, the carrier understood what kind of damages we were talking about.
right.
Uh, so There is
Medical records can be funny. I don't mean funny like ha ha. I'm
right.
funny like
Interesting.
odd. Yeah.
Interesting.
I've had a case where a guy fell off a ladder at a construction site. So in New York here, that's a labor law case. But the records, one of them said that he fell off a ladder at a construction site. Another record said he fell off a ladder at home.
Mm,
Another record said that he fell down the stairs. Now, if you didn't have any other information, you were just reading the medical records, you wouldn't know anything about the case, right?
right. Yeah.
You'd really be confused as to how it happened, and to investigate that, and you wouldn't get the records. You wouldn't get those records first. You'd find out all this other stuff first. But the point is that it's very easy to get access to misleading information early on in a case that could set you down the wrong path. And I always mention confirmation bias. And once you get that incorrect information, it's very hard to get it out of your head. And
Hmm.
I have seen other adjusters do it too.
Yes.
They're
And
like,
this,
but that's not covered. That's not covered. That's not covered. Well, hold on. Hold on. Let's talk a little more about what water really means,
right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
anyway, the
No,
thrill of
I totally
investigation.
agree. And there's another one, just a small little war story. This time I was for a carrier. I was the expert witness for a carrier, and I was looking over again, just skimming through the medical records, just looking through it when I noticed that the claimant had taken some STD test, sexual transmitted diseases tests, and he came up positive, and he's married. And I'm like, well, obviously his back wasn't hurting that much. Uh, you know,
Interesting.
yeah. So it is one of those little bitty things that will do that, and yeah,
The
it's
devil's in the details.
the devil is in the details, and it's a
And
lot of fun.
as my wife always says, there are two sides to every story, and the truth lies somewhere in between.
See, I always say that there's three sides. I mean, like if you look at a coin,
Uh-huh.
everybody will say there's two sides to a coin. And I said, no, there's actually three. There's that heads, tails, and then the side that you spin it on.
The edge.
And that's like where the truth kind of comes in the middle, right there. There's a he said, she said, and then what actually happened.
Right.
And you're right. Sometimes it is just the evidence that's on a car, for example, like where they got hit or whatever. Anyway, we can move on.
Well, the next one is flexibility, and I've always been known as flexible. So
Love it.
yeah,
Love it.
the job, sometimes you have to work, you have to make calls at night, sometimes on weekends. I try to avoid that because I have learned the value of maintaining a quality personal life as well.
Mhm.
That being said, I love every hour of my 16-hour day that I work. Um, but I do have to, dial it back. The job is flexible enough to do that. Um, so we have a newly installed patio at the house.
Oh,
It's great. Love it. And found out that I can work out there as long as I don't have to
nice.
make too many phone calls and I can just do some reports. The job allows that kind of flexibility. Now, I just saw this note that Elon Musk supposedly sent to his staff that it was titled "To Be Clear," and basically it was a very stern statement that no one will be working remotely. Everyone will be at their office with their colleagues 40 hours per week and no less. And now that's a manufacturing kind of environment. So I see his point, but this job isn't necessarily like that. You may work for a company that has those demands on you, and if you do, then that's what you have to do.
Mhm.
And if you hate that so much, then you can find another company to work for. I'm
Yeah.
almost positive.
Yeah.
Um, but it does, especially as an independent adjuster. I mean, sometimes when I'm on the road, I work at my second office, which is Panera.
Mm-hmm.
Panera's everywhere, and they're
Yes.
great places to sit down and work. And I've spent hours on end at a Panera. No affiliation with them whatsoever, by the
Mhm.
way. Other than I drink their coffee, a lot of it. And so the job is very flexible that way. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the workload becomes so great that your opportunities to be flexible aren't so great. So remember that.
Yeah, it there are issues, I can see the point. The main issue that I have with adjusters not being in an office is mostly for the younger ones, the new adjusters, because, and this is something that you and I've talked about before, where we or they don't get to hear senior adjusters and how they talk and
Right.
how they handle claims. Because I can remember one particular claim that I had where I desperately wanted to say something, and my team leader was sitting right next to me because we sat in pods of four, and he was there and he's like, don't say it, don't say it. And he's whispering it, he's at his desk and he's just going, don't say it, don't say it. I know. Mm-mm. And so I'm just sitting there going, I want to say it, and I think that they feel like they're on an island, and it just doesn't get across well. So we may be going back that way, may not. I don't know. I know a lot of people are doing the flex working, but yeah, there
I
is a
think
lot
a
of
re
flexibility.
I think a remote only job where you never interact with your fellow workers can be tough. I've had a job like that
Mm,
where we had our own home offices. The entire claim staff had their own home office.
mm,
We would get together once a quarter, I think. We'd all meet at a conference room and go over things and handle, personnel things that you would have to handle normally. And once a year, we would go down to the main headquarters for all the adjusters. It was like 400 people in this, convention type setting. And that wasn't ideal. There was very little flexibility in that
yeah,
job, and that
yeah,
was by design. And I think part of it was, well, if you're working at home, we want to make sure you're working at home. So we're going to check in with random calls now and again, even though we're supposed to somehow be on the road, investigating claims.
right,
Also,
right.
it was a very strange environment,
Yeah,
but it it depends on, I guess, who you work for
it
and
does.
their policies and their goals. And if one of their goals isn't trying to keep their staff happy enough that they don't leave, that could be an issue.
Yeah, and I will say, as you stated before, I mean, there are so many insurance companies that need adjusters. If you don't like one of your companies, you can go to another one. I
Probably.
mean, yeah, probably. Anyway, tell me more, Bill.
Another thing I love
Flexibility.
about this job is the ability to help people through tough times.
Mm-hmm.
When we have this job, when you get a new claim, you're going to be talking to people who have had a bad day somehow, some way. And they may have lost their house or their car or a limb
Mm-hmm.
or a relative.
Yeah.
And your job is to try to help them through that as best you can. Doesn't mean like if somebody passes away, it's not like a check is going to bring them back, right? And that's, finalizing a settlement is only part of the process. The other part of the process is finding out all the information that you can without being, what do I want to say? Doing it in an appropriate manner that demonstrates empathy and concern for their well-being. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anybody to lose their house. We feel bad. We should feel bad when that kind of thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, maybe this isn't the right job. If you feel so bad that you can't go to work every day, then that's another problem.
That's another problem.
But you should be at least have, you should at least have the ability to be compassionate with these people and take the position that you're here to help as best you can.
Right. Let's talk boundaries real quick because I think that's kind of what our wall is. I talk a lot about having walls built up or whatever. You are going to, because sometimes the claimant, first or third party, is very angry with you, and they're going to yell at you and cuss and curse, and you probably throw things, but they can't hit you because they're not in the office with you.
Mhm.
But and so you need to have your walls built up in the fact that sticks and stones can't break my bones or whatever, or can break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Right.
And but then on the flip side, you don't have your walls built up so much that you're cold and not caring because, again, sometimes all people need to hear is a voice. They just need to hear a voice. And we've talked about it before, Bill, where if someone is yelling, be quiet and let them yell and then say, yes, and, or tell me more. uh, and you're just writing it down, and a lot of times anger or being scared comes across as being angry.
Hmm.
So it's that balance act, and you're right, it is part of the benefit, I would think, of being a job. And it doesn't sound like a benefit, does it? I mean, like, okay, great, I'm getting yelled at for 8 hours a day. Woo, I want
Hmm.
to sign up for this job. No, but again, you're helping people. And once they realize that, it's kind of like that stray dog where they're a little bit skittish. And then once you show the dog, I'm not saying that everybody's a dog, but once you show that dog that you love them and you care for them and whatever, they let you pet them, kind of deal, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And some people will say, well, if you're not giving me a check today, you're not helping me.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's where some of the nuance comes in, and you have to say, well, if I could, I would. But here's all the things that we have to do before we can do that.
Mhm.
There are a lot of roadblocks between, the day we get the loss notice and the day a check is issued. There's a lot of things that have to happen in between.
Right.
Um, and your job as an adjuster is to be understanding, but also to be able to articulate all of these things that have to be done and why they are necessary.
Mhm.
It's not just the insurance company trying to delay the claim. It's
Exactly.
that we have to wait for Medicare to have their lien information to us. We have
Mhm.
to make sure that we've got the medical records just to verify that what you're claiming is, you know, actually related to the incident.
Exactly.
So yeah, at the bottom line is, yeah, you're helping people. So remember that, but also remember that it doesn't mean you're just showing up with a briefcase full of cash.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, though, that is the advertisements.
yeah.
And so that's what people think. And again, that's why it's so important to help yourself by setting those expectations.
And those advertisements, my head goes immediately to the injury attorneys that advertise.
Mm.
But it's also the insurance companies that
Oh yeah,
brag
no, that's
about,
exactly what I was thinking.
yeah, I think so. And you
There
would know that more than most just because you're seeing the bad actors on the insurance company sides.
there was, and I doubt I could find it again. I found it once because I was discussing at Lloyd's. I did a talk about what Americans think about insurance and why they get so angry with Lloyd's, because Lloyd's does take forever, despite the fact that they say they turn around things in 3 days. They very rarely do. And there was an advertisement. I want to say it was a State Farm advertisement, but it literally showed like a tornado coming through, and there was the cat mobile vehicle with the uh, adjuster sitting there handing out teddy bears to the insured's children. and then them writing a check with the tornado in the background. I mean, that was
Mhm.
the literal advertisement, and I got a copy of it. My admin actually found a copy of it. I doubt I could find it again. If you can, link it to our show notes or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like, oh my God, this is so not mm,
It gives a false
it does.
impression to the people who to the viewers.
Yes.
And again,
Anyway,
it's not, that delay is it's not designed so that the insurance company can be more profitable.
no,
You know, if the
that's a whole
if
different
the if
thing.
the money they pay out stays in their account a little longer, do they earn more money on on that cash while it's sitting there? Yeah, but that's
That's a
the
whole
the
different topic. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, the
it's a
delays are not built in to make sure that they make more money on that.
mhm.
The delays happen because of other outside forces.
Yeah.
We could That's a whole
That's a whole podcast. We should
that's
talk
a
about
whole
that.
podcast.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Independence and autonomy.
Oh yeah.
So we talked about flexibility, the independence part of it. I guess it depends again on what type of company you work for. I think if you work for a staff adjuster, you're going to be reined in a little bit more than if you're an independent adjuster. On that spectrum, as an independent adjuster, you don't have to work at all if you don't want. You won't make any money,
Yes.
but um, that independence is kind of baked into the cake here as an adjuster, and more so as an independent adjuster.
I was going to say, and it goes back to the problem solving and the flexibility as well, because, for example, um, you and I were talking about a claim where the carrier said, okay, well, your house is still inhabitable. So what we're going to do is put in a temporary stove into your house.
Mhm.
And that was a great idea to curtail additional living expense. So, you know, that is something flexible. You don't always have to pay for people to eat out, for example.
Even if the house is not uninhabitable, I've had multiple claims where we paid instead for an RV to be placed in their yard.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of things. I mean, you don't have to put them up in a hotel. You
Hmm.
don't have to rent an extended stay. You could rent an apartment for 6 months
Hmm.
or furnished apartment. So anyway, there you go. Yeah.
Lots of ways to be creative on the
That's
ALE side.
another reason to love the job.
Yeah, yeah. And pro tip for those who handle ALE, get that taken care of first. You know, figure out what's going to happen, do some quick math, and get a check in their hands like that. There's no reason to delay the ALE. If you know they're not going to, even if you even if you underpay it because you don't realize it may wind up taking longer, at least they've got some cash in their hands to be able to make temporary accommodations for themselves. So anyway, that's my soapbox for the day.
Well, yeah, and I would actually add to that is depending on the house or the dwelling, give them some advance for contents. I don't know,
Yeah.
if
Oh,
it's,
advance payments are
and you can
fairly
do that.
common. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do. Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
part of being flexible. That's part of being open.
Yeah.
Uh, and if your carrier is concerned, then I mean, keep it somewhat small, 2,500. But I mean, at least you're giving them something so that they can go buy some underwear,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, and if you're worried about authority or you're worried that somebody is going to audit the file and say, this was too much, um, use something that justifies it.
Yeah.
Say, well, we know that they're going to rent this apartment and it's $1,200 a month. We think it's going to take 3 months. It may go longer, but here you go,
Yeah.
3,600 bucks.
The point being, guys, as Bill's saying, document your file.
Yeah,
Document your file. And that way you're not going to get in trouble. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
And supervisors and managers should encourage that kind of behavior.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
What number
Lifelong
are we?
learning.
What? What number are we on? 15 or
8.
oh my gosh.
I know we talk so much here.
Wow. We do talk a lot though.
We don't have to cover all of them,
No, we
or I
don't.
can blast through them.
No,
Lifelong learning.
that is, but I mean, that's important. I love that about it. Again, I think that goes to the stimulation of the brain.
Sure. Yeah. Um, I mean, I learn a lot about coverage and laws and, insurance related things, but I also learn about non-insurance related things.
Hmm.
And we can probably kill two birds with one stone here because um, I thought I had one in here about expert witnesses.
Are great. They're fantastic.
They are. But you can learn so much from them. You know, you work with an accident reconstruction specialist, and they can teach you all about crush zones and how the light bulbs can tell you, whether they were using their brakes at the time of the collision or you can the little black boxes, they can
Yes.
extract that data out of that,
Hmm.
and that can be really very interesting. And you never know what kind of experts you're going to need depending on what kind of problem you're having or what kind of claim happens. And there's been what do I digital photography expert. I had to
Oh
deal
yeah.
with one of those, and they're able to extract all this metadata from the photograph and tell you when and where. I mean, you can look at that stuff up just on a photograph yourself, but they have other ways to tell whether a photograph has been altered. So that's really cool. Structural engineers, they'll teach you all kinds of stuff, not just about buildings and the way they're put together, but also why some of the building codes are the way they are, why a railing has to be where it is, what the height and of the step should be, and all those important things.
Yeah.
Weather people,
Yes.
they
Weather people.
they
So
can tell you
important.
all kinds of stuff about the weather conditions, whether maybe you had a slip and fall and the weather was borderline storm, but you're not really sure because the report, well, that kind of expert can come in and teach you all about that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's in addition to going to a conference and learning new stuff. Because
yeah.
I mean, I've learned plumbing and HVAC stuff and roofing and whatever. So very interesting.
Medical experts can be interesting, and
Hmm.
you can learn a lot about. Like I recently sat in on a talk about knee injuries, and ACL repairs and things like that. And I don't remember any of it, but it was pertinent to that claim at that time, and that's you can learn a lot from medical experts, of course. So what's next here? High earning potential.
Oh, yeah,
We're
this
just
is true.
lining our pockets with cash, aren't we?
No,
Well,
I mean,
the
come on.
reality is you can make a decent living doing this,
Yes.
and you can, I'm going to put this out there too. You can do this job without a college degree. Now,
Yes.
there's there's a lot of arguments about that, and that could be a whole other show too, but um you
I will
don't need
say,
you if you've got brains and you're a smart person, you don't need that degree because you're not going to find a class to teach you how to do this in college.
no. And that's a problem. A lot of the carriers do want college degrees.
Hmm.
I will say that.
Yep.
I think I mentioned a couple of episodes ago that I thought it was very funny, as in ha ha funny or ironic funny, that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, basically the Department of Labor, thinks that you don't need a college degree to be an adjuster.
Mm.
And yeah, technically you don't, but most of the carriers do want you to have one.
Yep.
But
They want to know how that you know how to learn.
Yes.
They
We
want to know that you have you know, a certain level of intellectual, you know, prowess.
capabilities. Yes.
So, I've known subject matter experts that make tons of money doing what
Yes.
they do,
Yes.
and they don't have a college degree.
hmm Here's the thing though. Because being an adjuster is hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Being an adjuster is hard.
Mhm.
It's fun. I love it. It does take a special kind of person to deal with the issues that we deal with, but I think that most people are going to be signing up to be underwriters or actuaries or agents or brokers. And so when we find ourselves with a dearth of adjusters, adjusters are going to be able to name their price,
Mhm.
especially good adjusters.
Mhm. Yep.
So,
So, that's my rant on lifelong learning and high
yeah,
income
and
potential.
high income potential.
Yeah, that's where we are now. Um, I don't know. What do you think the average salary for an
I looked it
adjuster
up
is?
actually because I was talking to our or my local community college here because I wanted to start a community college or another learning experience for high school seniors to once they've graduated to come to the community college and maybe get their degree or at least their 2 year degree, because it's cheap going
Hmm.
to a community college versus a 4 year university. And I said, yes, the agents will start off maybe at 54,000, something like that, but because they get commission, they'll at least be making six figures. Actuaries, of course, make six figures. Underwriters are probably in the high 70s. So are adjusters.
Hmm.
Adjusters are in the high 70s, low
Yeah, I was
80s.
going to say 75.
Uh, and of
I
course, that's
see
not,
listings all the time between 75 and 120.
oh yeah. And
So,
and that is not, of course, your entry level.
mhm.
And of course, when I started 25 years ago, I mean, it was 30,000 and that was of course a lot of money. So I was like, "Woo, that's great." And I mean, we probably started people off at 40,
Yeah,
45 as brand new adjusters,
yeah,
which is a lot of money for a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, or even
yeah.
older. I mean, like we've talked about before, Bill, is we've had people come in who wanted a second career. And I love that.
Yeah.
You know, ex cops, ex construction workers, that sort of thing.
And I should talk about cat adjusting because that's the outlier in all this.
Yes.
If you're the type of person who is a little bit entrepreneurial, who just does not mind working, 16, 18, 20-hour days, um, doing estimates all night, do inspections all day for months and months at a time, sometimes four, sometimes six, depending on, you can make well into the six figures. I've heard of guys making over $200,000 a year just doing cat work. So that's a possibility as well.
Right.
It's not
It's a,
easy money,
yeah,
and
it's
it's
a lot of
not for the
dependability.
faint of heart. It's a lot of work, and you're away from home. So
hmm
if you've got a family that you love and want to see every night, might not be a good career move.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're getting close to our time. Should we do our last one
Sure,
and then talk about our next podcast?
sure. Let me read a list of the last five.
Okay.
No, there's more than five here. Uh, Long-term relationships,
Oh,
job stability. We've already
very
talked
true.
about that.
Very
Personal
true.
growth. Kind of talked about that.
hmm
Making informed decisions. Who wrote this? Um,
I love it.
the adventure of field work. We've actually
Oh,
did talk about that. And diverse specializations. We kind of talked about that. So
yeah.
I guess there was only nine or 10 of them.
Well, that's okay. I mean, because a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of them do bleed over. And that's what I think is, again, fascinating about being an adjuster is, of course, we've talked again about Barton Keyes from the film noir movie of Double Indemnity, but you have to be a doctor, a father confessor, a surgeon, all of these things. And I think that's what really makes it fun. I think that is what makes adjusting fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to keep doing it till I retire.
Yeah,
What do you
me,
think of that? And then maybe a
um,
little bit after.
me too.
I know a lot of
Absolutely.
guys that retire, but still still have a toe in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is enjoyable.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
I will tell you that the person I replaced at Ontario Insurance Company when I started working there was in his 70s.
wow. Wow, 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 wow. So what are we doing? I am not going to be here next time. I am going to be visiting my boss up in New York City, actually.
How fun.
Yes, he is the dean or the boss for risk management and insurance at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. So I'm going to go up there and visit and say hi. So
Awesome.
I'm not going to be here for our next guest. Or actually, we're having
Yes.
a guest. Oh, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I'm
Spoiler
trying to
alert.
find that episode here.
It is
What?
Charlene Hoskins, and she is
There we
going to be
go.
talking about, I think, adjuster education.
Yes. She's the CEO of the Property Adjustment Specialists,
Yes.
or TPAs. Interesting name. Oh, I get it. Cool.
Yes.
She is a certified Texas Department of Insurance education provider, and they
Hmm.
work with Web CE. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's going to be great. We'll have a talk with her. Unfortunately, you will have to listen to that one,
Yes, I
Chantel.
will. I will. I will listen to
Yeah,
it. But always check in and yeah, send us links, send us information, send us
questions.
ideas. Yeah, questions, whatever. We take requests.
Yeah, so I got back on TikTok, all right? So if you have a question that you want to ask, you can message me there or any of the other links on social, LinkedIn, ask a question. Oh, you can go to my website and there's a little contact thing there. You can send. I get so many fun messages from that. The other day, I have a message from someone in Turkey who has an bank account with $11.9 million that they want me to help them with.
Really? Are they going to
I,
give it to you? Is it your lost
yeah,
uncle?
they're just going to give it to me, and then
That's
they'll
so
just give me
nice.
a fee of a percentage of it, and I can't wait. It's going to work out really well, I'm sure.
Oh, will you remember me in your will, please?
Sure.
Okay. We'll talk to you later, Bill.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
Bye.
for joining us on the Art of Adjusting podcast, where we talk about life as an insurance adjuster.
If you enjoyed this podcast or this episode, please give us 5 stars and a review. It does help the algorithm pick us up.
Hit that subscribe button real quick and tell all of your adjuster friends to check this out as well. For independent adjusting services, go to www.auton.claims. And for anyone interested in working as an independent liability adjuster, go to the Contact Us tab to join our roster.
In the meantime, you can contact me at theartofadjusting.com for consulting and training purposes.